Hello, everyone. Good evening. Good evening. Welcome to episode number 29 of the P.W.P sessions. That is the Poets with Purpose sessions. I'm your host, Noelle Figueroa, and I am happy and honored tonight to have as my guest another poet by the name of Terri Rose Jertson. And before we dive into the conversation, I'm just gonna go through my PowerPoint to give a brief introduction. So thank you all so much for joining this episode tonight. So this is episode 29, and I am excited that I'm conducting yet another podcast episode during the month of Poetry Month. This is like it's like the Christmas of creatives, so to speak. You know, it's the most wonderful time of year for poets and spoken word artists to celebrate all things poetry related, and that's what we're here to do. We're here to celebrate poets and poetry and recognize poets for their work and their contributions to the poetry scene. Now, for those not familiar with this podcast, the P.W.P sessions, or the Poets with Purpose sessions, is a podcast where I conduct interviews with new or established authors of poetry and feature a performance of their work along with an audience Q&A session. I am your host, Noelle Figueroa. I am a poet, author, blogger, workshop facilitator, and events host, and I'm the creator of the P.W.P sessions. Now, tonight's guest is Terri Rose Jertson, and here is a bio on her before we get started. Terri Rose Jertson is an artist, wife, mother, and peer recovery specialist who took up poetry in 2020 as a way to cope with the new normal. She regularly attends open mics at the New Eureka Poets Cafe, Find Vocabulary, The Word is Right, Nomadic Press, Tumble Words Project, Society X, Barbed Wire Open Mic Series, Like a Blot from the Blue, Bronx Art and Fun Hub Poetry in the Brew, and has featured on FUMFA, Poets and Writers Live, Why Open Pandora's Box, The Forever 7, and Mitch's Salon poetry events. Her poems, Living Like a Tree and Magnolia Trees, have been chosen for publication in the anthology entitled Whispering Willow, Tree Poems. The proceeds of this book will benefit Arbor Day with the expected release in spring 2022. Terri has also been chosen to be one of the artists to read her poems entitled An Ode to the Daisy and Little Bird on the PBS podcast, Poetically Yours. Currently, she is working on her first solo poetry book with Read or Green Books and is a contributor in the erotic anthology entitled Touching Tongues 2021. You can find her on Teresa Rose Jertson on Facebook and on Instagram at iFunniesMom. The erotic anthology Touching Tongues is available for purchase for $25, and you can private message her for a signed copy. Her upcoming events include the Fierce 15 Meet the Artists, March 27th at 2 p.m., Word is Right platform on Facebook and Zoom. Now, without further ado, I'd like to introduce Terri Rose Jertson. Hi, Terri, how are you?
Hi there, I'm pretty good, thanks.
Terri, I think you're still on mute.
I'm fine. I'm just having some usual technical difficulties with my computer not wanting to open up my book. So
Oh no,
I mean, I have some poems that I have filled up with journals, and I have some poems on my phone I can actually pull from there, but it's a little annoying when I actually need it, how I can't even get into it.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, that happens from time to time, unfortunately. But welcome to my podcast.
Thank you.
I want to start off with a question that I ask all my guests, and that is, who is Terri Rose Jertson? How would you describe yourself or define yourself?
I'm an artist and mother from New Jersey. I was an artist before I was a poet. I got interested in writing creatively when I was in college, and I graduated rather late. I was in my 50s when I finally got my bachelor's degree. So it's never too late.
Awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you. And then I thought I was going to do all these different things. I was interested in teaching. I worked with children for 10 years. I was in schools working as substitute teaching. Then I got into the recovery field, and now I'm a peer recovery specialist, and I work for a social service agency. And we work with pregnant moms with substance use disorder.
Oh, that's awesome. Awesome. Beautiful. Beautiful. Now, what was your motivation or desire to start writing poetry?
That became a thing to do during the pandemic when we were shut in, and I was looking for a creative outlet for myself. And when you're in the counseling field, and when you're in the recovery field, they urge you to take care of your self-care, like make sure you're taking care of yourself before you're out there and you're trying to help everybody else. So one of the things that my counselor suggested, because we all have counseling, is to keep up with my poetry, because I was really able to expand my writing. And I started out with being in the Zoom rooms with various other artists at first. And I was involved in the Society X first. And then I met people in there, and they were telling me about other things that were going on. And so I just expanded myself, and I got involved with writing again. And I use it for therapeutic purposes, I would say. And it's helping me. It's helped me for the last 2 years just get through everything that we've been going through collectively.
Yes, definitely. That's awesome, because I'm a firm believer in writing poetry as being a form of therapy. It does help relieve some of the burden, if not all of it, with whatever it is you're dealing with. It does prove to be a valuable outlet, to deal with, whatever emotions you're dealing with at any given time. Now, what subjects do you choose to cover with your poetry?
I talk about my family. I talk about current events. I talk about domestic violence situations, just things that I've come into contact with. I have a group of poems that I wrote about people who have passed on that I have come into contact with in this field. And my dog. I have lighter things. I talk about my dog, and I could write a whole book just about her. That's probably going to be my next project.
Oh, awesome. Awesome. Yeah, I love dogs myself, actually. So that's a beautiful thing. Who or what would you say is helping you to develop your skills as a writer?
Well, that's a good question, and I have an answer. My fellow poets, because I get a lot of experience in the rooms, and I go everywhere. I mean, some of the rooms you were mentioning in the beginning when you were given my bio, these are groups all over the place. I mean, there's in California, Texas, New York, even, England, Paris, Scotland, Ireland. I mean, they're all over the place. And so, modern technology, it makes it possible for us to be able to do that.
Yes, that's an awesome achievement. And congratulations on being able to contribute to those forums. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Now, like when you started before we talk about your upcoming project, I want to talk about the poems that you contributed to those anthologies. Like, what was your what made you desire to want to contribute to those anthologies? Like, what was your motivation to contribute to those places?
For the Arbor Tree Foundation?
Well, for those anthologies, like generally speaking, like what prompted you to start getting your poetry into these venues?
Just for exposure. I wanted to just, see, and also see, was my poetry good enough? Because like I say, I used it for therapeutic purposes. I didn't really know if it had, the chops to be in some of these books. I did get rejected a couple times. I didn't
Right,
always get accepted. And I thought, oh,
right.
wow, my poetry must really stink. Like I think it does. Sometimes you just don't have the
Mhm.
confidence you need to. But then
Right.
if you do get accepted and you do get accepted more and more in different places, it gives you more confidence to continue and, you know, um, make a contribution to these various places who are usually, the Arbor Tree Foundation it's a nonprofit. So
Mm.
they're taking their funds and they're using it for, the planting of trees and whatnot, so that betters the society. And then other ones I didn't submit to yet, but I plan to, are just basically to be among other poets who have, some cred, and, that'll give me cred as well. And hopefully, when my book is published, maybe somebody will want to buy it.
Yes, definitely, definitely. And it goes with the territory, when you're trying to put yourself out there, it's kind of like a mixed bag of, being accepted in some places and rejected with others. But, you know, you see over time that the rejection is not necessarily a reflection on you per se, so you just have
Right.
to take it with a grain of salt and know that, as the foundation of yourself as a writer, know that what you say is know that what you have to say is valid and has significance, maybe not to certain audiences, but there is definitely an audience that you're specifically meant to reach. So if nothing else, that in itself is motivation for you to keep, expressing yourself poetically.
Yes.
Now, let's talk about your upcoming book. This is your very first collection of poetry, correct? What was
Yes.
the inspiration or motivation to put together this first collection of poetry for yourself?
Well, there's a woman by the name of Marissa Prada. I have to give her a shout out. She's very encouraging, and she has a press where it's called Red or Green Books, even though it looks like Read or Green.
Hmm.
And she's based in Albuquerque, and her, the chili peppers, the red and green, is where she got that logo from. But she's
Hmm.
been instrumental in many poets that are up and coming, who are, not, publishers are not seeking them out to, for their work. So it's like first time publishing people. And you know, she gives everybody a chance, basically. The way it works is it costs something. So, she will work with you, though, if you can't come up with whatever the monies are. There's artists that are on staff that do your cover for you. You have to seek out your own reviews, but everybody in the community is more than happy to give you a review to get you, to help you along. Everybody's very supportive. And I just wanted to see if I could do it. That's why I do a lot of things.
Right, right,
I just
definitely.
wanted to see if I could put together something that would, be coherent, that would maybe be, significant, and maybe mean something to somebody else other than me. Um, I have artwork in the book as well. So, you know, it's a little bit different than your just regular like poetry book that would just have poems. It's a little, it's more what I would want to read, or what I would want to represent me actually in a book. So, and I've gotten some really nice reviews already. I'm really was surprised at
Oh, that's
they,
awesome.
yeah, I got some great reviews, and I was real happy with that. So,
Well, that's great.
I
Congratulations.
need, thank you. I needed a few to put on the back.
Right, definitely. That's awesome. Now, when it's released, like, what can the audience expect from this book? Like, what is the mood or the theme of the book? Is there like a specific theme or message with this particular book? Like, what exactly would this poetry book consist of?
It has, okay, so haiku, which I love. It just gets me started a lot if I'm kind of like dry for ideas or something. If I start with a haiku, I can really go with that. Then there's tankas, which are a little bit expanded haikus,
Hmm.
like another couple of lines. It's like 5 7 5 and then 7 7. like syllables in the lines. I do acrostic poems, but I don't know if I actually included any. I was going to include one where you take the first word, or you take a word like halo, and you say heaven always levels opposition. So you
Right.
use those words. That was one of the poems that was going to be in there, and it was so short, and it was taking up a whole page, and I was just like, is this really, you know, should I put something else a little bit more expansive in there? And that's what I ended up doing. I have
Right.
poems about my town where I live in, New Jersey. There's a woman, she became famous for walking across the country for peace. Her name is Mildred Pierce, and she was known as the Peace Pilgrim. So we have the Peace Pilgrim Park in our town dedicated to her. So I wrote a piece about that, because actually people walk their dogs over there. So of course, because I'm a dog owner, I bring my dog over there. So I have a piece about that, what happened when I brought my dog there. The dog has to be in somehow. So I have like 10 or 20 different haiku poems in there about the dog. And then poems that are reverse poetry that you can read after you read them forwards, you can read them backwards. And I have concrete work in there where it's the shape of what I'm talking about. You make the words into that shape. I have mixed up poems that are, you take a poem that you wrote and then you mix the words around and you show it side by side.
Right.
There's just so many different styles. I don't use them all. I would say prose, as which is like poetry that doesn't rhyme. I would say I also have rhyming poetry, and essays. So the one when I went to the park, that's like an essay.
Right.
They're short. My poems are very short. Like I'll do 25 word poems.
Right.
I take those challenges all the time because it keeps me like fresh. Like I just, I can bang out something like that and I don't have to think about it all that much. But if I'm writing an essay and it has to be, punctuated correctly and capitalized correctly, and, if I put a comma or too many something in the wrong place, it doesn't make sense. So
Right.
I have to pay attention to that too. But my regular poetry, I take poetic license with. I put words in there that are from the 18th century. I get questioned, why did you use that word? Because it rhymes with the other word and it's a word, So
Right.
I take poetic license sometimes with my poetry.
Right. Awesome. Awesome. Now, did you mention that you included artwork inside the poetry book? Now,
Yes.
does the art coincide with any of the poems, or is it just included to enhance the book?
The art coincides with the poems.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, that's definitely one way to make your book stand out from the crowd, to incorporate the two. That's an excellent idea. Are there any subjects that you write about that you gravitate to more than others, or do you feel like you just write whatever comes to your mind or to your heart?
I kind of write from my experience. So it could be a prompt also that I'm writing to, like, because it's poetry month. I'm on Instagram and there are, so many prompts. Like there's prompts for every day of April. So, and they publish, other poet platforms publish these lists of prompts. So if I see something that looks like, I can write on that, I will just grab it and I will just write on it. But I write a lot about relationships, and how how failed relationships and how good relationships, and just how we relate to one another. I write about marriage, just things that resonate with me, that have affected me in my life.
Right. Right. Are there any poets that stand out to you that you would consider to be your inspiration?
Yes, but I don't know if, like, you mean classic poetry.
Yeah,
Um,
any poets living or deceased that you would consider to be an inspiration to your work.
oh my God. I like Edgar Allan Poe. He's a little
Mhm.
creepy. I like the scary stuff sometimes. And I actually wrote 30 days of poetry last October. It was called Two Sentence Horror Stories. So in
Wow.
two sentences, for every day of the month of October, I had to come up with a horror story in two sentences.
Oh,
It
wow.
was so much fun. I loved doing that.
That's definitely a unique concept. I never heard of that before. That's awesome.
Yes. I guess I should know the name of the person and credit them who came up with that idea. And you think after I put it in there 30 times, I would remember. But that's
Awesome.
basically the idea, which was not mine, so I'm not claiming it. But it was, if you want to look that up, you can look that up in Instagram. You can just type in that 2 sentence horror stories, and
Uh-huh.
it'll show you everybody that got involved in that, because they hashtagged it, and it's all on a page in Instagram there.
Wow, that's awesome. I'll definitely look that up because that's definitely a unique concept. Now you've heard the word representation, thrown around in different circles at various times for various reasons. Now, when it comes to your writing, like how important is it for you to make sure that you're representing yourself in your totality? Whether you're talking about race, religion, education, culture, womanhood, all factors of your life taken into consideration. How important is it to you that you're making sure that you're representing yourself through your writing in your totality?
Well, sometimes I really don't like, I get tired of representing myself because I get bored with myself sometimes.
Mhm.
So I kind of like to get out of myself, and that's when I like write about things like current events, things that are happening right now in the Ukraine, LGBT issues, any kind of thing that might have come up in the news, even silly stories that come up in the news. Um, it finds its way in.
Right, right. Well, regardless of whatever the subject is that you choose to talk about, do you feel a sense of freedom when you write? Like, do you feel you can be yourself when you're writing?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Mm.
I feel like, because the places that I go to read my poetry, um, I don't feel there's judgment there. Like
Mhm.
I feel nothing but encouragement to um, continue my craft and to continue getting better at what I do.
Right, awesome, awesome. And what has the general reception been to your poetry has been? Have you gotten like a lot of what was the feedback like for your poetry, like from when you first started writing?
I got a lot of good feedback. Um, some of the first couple of poems I wrote, people were like in the rooms with me when I read them, and I was a little hesitant because I was thinking I don't even belong in here with the caliber of people that are in here right now. Like the guy who was
Right,
running it went to Oxford, and I was like, this guy, he's gonna just think this is such like, you know, fluff or whatever.
right,
And he was the one that was the most encouraging to me, and he was blown away by my poetry, and because the realness of it, I'm like, you know kind of matter of fact with a lot of my poetry. I don't like try and make it pretty, and I don't add a lot of fluffy words, although sometimes I do if that's the object of what I'm trying to do. But basically I'm trying to get a message, some kind of message out there. And I think for me, the best way I do that is by being just totally straightforward with everything that I say. I mean, I don't try and sugarcoat things. And if I think it's going to be like controversial, I'll say this might bother some people, before I read it, just so they know, like give a trigger warning out there.
right, right. That's awesome. But I'm a firm believer in that. I'm a firm believer in being straightforward and transparent, with writing, because when you make the choice to be transparent, you definitely connect with your audience better when you're able to walk in the freedom of being yourself and in being free with your subject matter. So that's definitely something important, to consider as a poet and an author, and it's a very important thing to be able to do as a writer and a poet. Now, do you have a preference between the traditional publishing route and self-publishing, or do you feel like whatever opportunity comes, like at any particular moment, like, do you favor one over the other, or is there no preference for you?
I like I said, I don't have people banging down my door to publish me right now. I
Mhm.
wish I did.
Right.
That's the best case scenario for a writer. But I'm thinking, I read something. There's a lot of self-publishing going on right now in Amazon and whatnot, and that's a route I was going to actually go to start with. And I actually sold books for a little while on Amazon that were just like used books. And I was doing pretty well with that because when I was in school, I was selling a lot of my college textbooks and just other books that I have a lot of books laying around. So I did pretty well with that. And I thought, well, maybe I can just like get my book published and then just put it on that website. And then if somebody wants to buy it, it's there. But it's not really advertised or anything. No one really knows it's there. And it's not a famous book that people are actually going to be looking for. So I thought maybe that's not the best way to go to get it out there. That's why I chose, I asked Marissa if she would consider publishing me, and she said yes. And then we're going to New York for the New York Poetry Festival in September, and she has already published 10 people. The first initial 10 people before, then there was 20 people that came next. And now there's 15 of us that I'm in this third group of people. So all these poets are going to be there with their books, and everyone else that's going to be there with their stuff. And we're going to read live readings out of our stuff out of our books.
Wow,
So we're
that's
going to
excellent.
advertise. Yeah, we're going to be out there.
Awesome, awesome. That's excellent. And I think that provides the perfect segue for this next portion of the podcast. Is now it's time for Terri to take the mic. Now, Terri, at this time, you can share up to 5 poems of your choosing to give our audience an idea of your poetry and your subject matter and how you present yourself. So at this time, the floor is yours.
I have a question for you.
Mhm.
Are you opposed to me reading anything a little on the spicier side?
No, you're free. You're free. You're
Okay.
free to do so. It's totally fine.
Okay, I can give you the kitchen erotica that I wrote. We were playing around. Sometimes we have after hours in these rooms, and we have kind of like some free time on our hands. And somebody will make a suggestion. Why don't you write some kitchen erotica? So this is that for my first one. This is not in the book, however. This is maybe in the next book. My kitchen is well equipped with recipes for love. My blender is anxiously awaiting for your milky sustenance to froth. My whisk comes in several sizes depending on the occasion. To beat your cream into a frenzy or stiff peaks, adding the spice, cinnamon, sweet, the better to taste you. The main course of pleasure just in time to measure. The spatula flips to turn you over. Plunging in gently, the meat thermometer checks to see if you're done. Turkey baste you until you beg me to come. No, not yet. There's more time left for fun. Squeeze the hot juices out on the skin to keep you wet. Did we start preparing dessert yet? Flatten out the doughy crust to fill it with berry succulence. My fork poking holes into the engorged center to allow it to breathe. Thirst is beginning to overtake us as we approach the climax. We tumble over each other. Running to the refrigerator to get some ice, we apply it to our lips to cool the heat, and sliding down the more sensitive parts, it melts immediately, dripping down, creating micro pools of water that we lap up with our tongues, quenching our parched throats. The cabinetry tries to contain itself as it continues to watch the paring knife through glimpses of clandestine coupling catches feelings as Keurig filled with coffee declared, "Call me." And the teapot, not wishing to be left out, whistled repeatedly.
Awesome, awesome. Very fun. That was a fun, creative poem. That's awesome.
I forgot I wrote that darn thing. It winds up on my laptop and I forget all about it. So I wrote one, I actually wrote a few about my grandmother because my grandmother actually raised me growing up. My parents were there, but they were always, it seemed like they're going to hate me for this. They were always working and they were providing for us. And I understood that. I didn't take offense that they weren't always there. I knew they had to work. But my grandmother was the one that was there. Like after school, we would go to her house. She would, prepare us food and we would get her, her grandmotherly wisdom and her grandmotherly, discipline when we were out of line. So I wrote a few about her. This is one. Nana is what we called you. You did not say much about your family origins. You did say a few choice words in Italian, which would come out quickly when you were triggered. The eggplant parm that you painstakingly spent days making for my dad, your son, at his request, you showed me. You tried to teach me to crochet at my request. As you were the expert, me, not so much. But at least we tried. My memories of you are these, watching you sitting in your chair, rubbing your knees with holy water, telling me how they always pained you. Your teeth in a glass. You told me that when you were younger that you didn't like them and you had them all pulled out. Back then they would use your real ones to fashion a bridge. And today that would be classified as hazardous waste. Also today, if you say to your dentist that you want to save your baby teeth, it's a big deal. I remember setting the table for you and trying to be a help. Maybe I would anticipate the time when you would throw me $1 or $2 from your coin purse. Cash was scarce back then, and a couple of bucks was a lot of money. I recall when I finally became a mother and it was getting close to the time when you would become a great grandmother, and you said you didn't know if you were going to make it. That thought was not even in my mind. I think my face must have reflected what I was thinking, as I have that kind of face. Nana, I said, you have to try. As if we could control something so serious and out of the depths of human ability. She knew that I did not fully understand or that I can never imagine my life without her in it. The day she died, I was the most inconsolable person in the room, much to the embarrassment of my very reserved family. I never remember feeling so much grief in my life, and never will I feel it again.
Awesome poem. It's beautiful.
Thank you. I'm just having some difficulty opening up my actual book. I don't know why it didn't want me to open it today. There's another file up here that I forgot. I wrote a poem called, I submitted it to. If not open it, saying it's going to cause a serious error if I open it. Okay, that doesn't sound good. So let me see what else I have. All right, I'm gonna have to go to technology for a moment because for some reason those other ones don't want to open for me. Bear with me a moment. So I have a lot of poems on Instagram, and what I like to do with my poems on Instagram is to do, I figured out how when you're making a story and you're creating a story for yourself, that you can type into the story whatever you want to say, and you can use whatever background you want to use. So a lot of times I will take a photograph of something, that's my poetry, or like pictures of flowers in my garden and write haikus. So I can give you some of those. So I have, these are in my stories. Grass haiku, mow the grass sneezing, allergies have taken hold, masks not optional. That's one. Cherry blossoms, hunt, the best places to view them, Washington, D.C. Drive along the monuments. Pink blossoms in bloom, the scent captivating me. Delicate petals, rosy trees fill the landscape. Pink carpet falls on the ground. I have one about my dog, but I'm just gonna keep with the, okay, so I have a haiku for my mother. Mothering matters. Growing, teaching, loving us, making memories. Then I have another one. Trend-setting values for future generations, influencers all. And then I have, this one's appropriate for taxes. It's called procrastination, putting off taxes, procrastinating yearly till the last minute. And here I have some about Violet. I'll just read it. She keeps coming up. Violet is staring, eyes intent on breaking me. Move, feeble human. Get me what I want. Messaging me without words. Master of humans. How can you say no? Look at this beautiful face. Fall in love again. And then I have one about Netflix and Prime. I refuse to sink into the bottomless pit of Netflix and Prime. And I have Van Gogh inspired, seems as if they can eat you with tongues hanging out. And this was about I have a lot of irises in my backyard. So that was my garden fun with irises. And then I have this little bird one, which I'm actually, I'm reading this on NPR on Poetically Yours. This is called Little Bird. Little bird, where are you going after you leave your first home? Will you fly off to start great adventures or remain hidden, refusing to roam? Will you meet your partner for life or will you cower and die alone? No. Spreading your wings to rise to astonishing heights, this is my prayer for you every night. Little bird, your mama knew when it was time for you to soar. She gave you that push that you didn't ask for. And I have some more garden poetry. Starring oops, that one went too fast. Paper whites dreaming hidden among the others, playing peekaboo. These are my white irises. I have a lot of flowers in my backyard. Peony, giant in full bloom, sweet fragrance drawing me in, no masks required. Morning glory haiku, passed by unaware, tucked away among tall grass, found these tiny gems. Palette of garden colors, wheel, purple, green, red, complementary. I have music to this one, so I'm trying to keep it from playing the music. No. Oops. This one's about another peony. I love peonies because they smell so good. Playing favorites, magenta red, pink, or white. Intoxicating fragrance fills the room. Budding beauties consume. Uh-oh. This is what happens when I get into my Instagram and it's just doing whatever it wants. Okay, I'm out of there. So did I use up my time?
Now you actually have time for one more. In fact, would you like to share one of those poems you had contributed to the anthology, Living Like a Tree?
I'm trying to think how I can get to that. Wait a minute. Because I would have had it if I could get my I'll try one more time to open up my book and see if it will. Let's pray. Dear God, please open my book. I have it on a paper that's loose. If I can just locate it, I could probably locate it by the time this thing opens. So I have to step away from the camera for a minute now, or maybe I have it in my notes. Let me see. Can I step away from the camera for 1 minute?
Sure, that's okay. That's all right.
All right, so I think I might have it over here. It was in one of my books. So this
Okay.
one is called, I did this in a workshop, and it was called a contrapuntal, which means that you can read it forwards and backwards. So I can do that. My hands always busy, my mind always working, my body always moving, no time to rest. Have to keep moving. Death will come in its time now, or sooner than later. Resting is for the dead. I will push on. I won't lay down and die. My will is stronger. Yes, a strong will should get me through this life despite its troubles. I will be planted and strong like this tree, forever bending with the gales, storms, hurricanes of the world. But not breaking. Leaves will fall, branches may shed, but the purpose is to stand tall as a testimony to those that were cut down. And then you can read it the other way. To those that were cut down, to stand tall as a testimony, but the purpose is branches may shed, leaves will fall, but not breaking, almost to break. I will not topple, I will flex. Storms, hurricanes of the world, forever bending with the gales. Like this tree, I will be planted and strong. This life, despite its troubles, should get me through. Yes, a strong will. My will is stronger. I won't lay down and die. I will push on. Resting is for the dead, more sooner than later. Death will come in its time now. Have to keep moving. No time to rest. My body always moving. My mind always working. My hands always busy.
Wow. Wow. Awesome. Awesome. Ladies and gentlemen, that was the excellent poetry shared by Miss Terri Rose Jertson. Terri, thank you so much for taking time out to be on my podcast to share your awesome poetry. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Now, before we close out, I'm just going to share my screen again. Oops, sorry about that. Let's try again. Yeah, this time I'm gonna do a quick Q&A session. And one question that I would like to ask you before we close out is, with your writing, what do you hope to accomplish with your work? Like, do you have like a specific goal with your writing that you would like to achieve?
Well, I have a lot of words in me that I feel like I need to get out. They're trying to escape. And rather than just have them go all willy-nilly, I kind of want to get some like focus on some things. And then, if people want to read that, that's good too. But I kind of feel like I'm exploding with all these ideas and words and pictures and books. And I feel like I need to do this to get this out, to get it on paper and just get it out of me. So I don't feel like like my mission from God is to do it. You know what I mean? And I have to do it before I die.
Right. Definitely. When you have a passion for something, then there's this certain energy that you have within you to just go forward and get it done. And I understand that drive completely, because when you fully understand what your purpose is, you're driven to move in that purpose to fulfill it to your highest degree. So I totally understand that drive and that emotion totally. Now, if there's one author of poetry that you could collaborate with, whether they're living or deceased, is there any one person in particular that you would love to collaborate with?
One person living or deceased.
Like if you could have like a dream collaboration, who would that person be and why?
It's going to sound so cliche if I say Elizabeth Barrett Browning, but how do I love thee? Let me count the ways. I mean, that that was one of the first poems that ever just like knocked me upside my head. Like I just thought, wow, like the love like that is the love that I want to have, you know.
Right.
Um, and it's cliche to say her name, and I've been accused of being cliche before. So I'm just right in there, just right in there with it. And then, of course, I don't know if I want to collaborate with Edgar Allan Poe because I'm not quite sure that that man was stable. I'm afraid of him a little. But, you know, I want to collaborate with someone who I'm not afraid that I'm going to get murdered by.
Excellent, excellent. Are there any, do you have any events coming up that you would like to share with our audience?
I do have a poetry games. I'm hosting with another poet by the name of Jertson. And he is like trying to get the world record for the number of haikus that you can possibly one human can write. So he's going for the world record, and him and I we sometimes collaborate. And the Forever Seven with the girl who runs it, her name is Rayanne Chantel. And she has us doing like different things on there. He works with haiku workshops for children, and then I mostly just come on to do like games and stuff with him, and games is just like prompts, different prompts for other writers that want to come in and just, you know, have some fun and loosen, you know, just loosen up and write some loose poetry or funny poetry, or depending on whatever theme we come up with.
Excellent, excellent. Now, do you have any like other goals that you intend to accomplish with your poetry? Like you mentioned that you work with children, is that correct? Like, do you have any goals in regards to working with children with your poetry, or working with adults with your poetry? Like are there any particular plans or goals that you have concerning your poetry in those regards?
I think that when I write the book about my dog, I think that's probably going to be a children's book.
Mhm.
Although, you know, adults reading it to their children, they have to be able to enjoy it too. So it'll probably be
Right,
leaning towards like adult humor, but that children will just like the dog part. And
right.
you know, that kind, I might end up doing that. And I also want to do a chapbook about those horror story, Halloweeny, scary poems. And I'm probably going to do, the name of my book is The Chameleon Chronicles, and I'm going to do more chronicles. So whenever I come up with another title for another second like book number 2 on the Chameleon Chronicles, I can you know, just put a lot of these poems that I found that I forgot that I wrote that deserve to be somewhere. I'll probably get all those together and get another book together. Because the Chronicles, when I came up with that, I thought this is going to be more than one book.
Right. That's
So
excellent. That's excellent. And I wish you all the best with those future endeavors. That's all. Those are awesome goals to strive towards. That's awesome. Now,
thank you.
before we close, can you share with our audience where you can be found on social media?
Yes. My name is Teresa Rose Jertson on Facebook, but I'm not on Facebook as much as I'm on Instagram, and mostly all the new stuff that I put it on Instagram. And if it winds up on Facebook, it's because it's just going to copy and paste anything I'm putting on Instagram on Facebook too.
Right.
So, but if you want to see a lot more of my poetry, you can find me on iFunnies Mom, and it's IFUNNIEZ Mom on, you know, at Instagram.
Okay. Excellent. Excellent. So as we close out tonight, first and foremost, I want to take this moment to say thank you. I want to thank you, Terri, for stopping by my podcast and sharing your awesome poetry. I wish you all the best with your upcoming book project, as well as any future projects that you put your hands to. I really enjoyed your poetry, and I wish you nothing but much success and blessings with your work. For those of you that wish to follow Poets with Purpose, you can connect on Facebook through the Facebook group Poets with Purpose. You can follow on Twitter at @PoetsWPurpose, the YouTube channel with the same name, Poets with Purpose, and Clubhouse at The Anointed Pen. You can stay tuned for the next event, which will be not necessarily another podcast per se, but I will be celebrating the 1-year anniversary of this podcast, which will be Saturday, April 30th, 2022 at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The actual anniversary is April 10th, but I had needed to push it to April 30th due to scheduling conflicts. So do tune in on that day and time. Stay tuned for the flyer to be circulated about that. And for more information about Poets with Purpose or the P.W.P sessions, you can call me at 646-372-6230 or email me at poetswithpurpose@gmail.com. Lastly, the logo and all of my flyers are designed by the wonderful team at Eclipse Graphics NY. You can find them on Instagram @Eclipse Graphics NY, where you can see samples of their work and reach out to them if you need projects done for yourself. And lastly, for those of you that wish to make a donation, you could do so through PayPal, Tap Media Man, Cash App, $Anointed Pen, or Zelle through my phone number, 646-372-6230. And that, ladies and gentlemen, concludes episode 29. Thank you, Terri, for joining me tonight. Thank you to my audience. This video should be uploaded to the YouTube channel as well as my social media within the next hour or so. So be on the lookout for that so you can share on your own social media platforms. Thank you so much for joining me. I wish you a good night and a great weekend. God bless. Thank you.
Thank you. God bless you too.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.